Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I have with me Antje Bustamante. She's the Director of Data and Analytics at Zoopla, the property search website. Great to have you on the show, Antje. I can't wait to talk about what you've been up to there and transformation in data in your organization. So welcome along to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here as well. Thank you for the invite.
No problem at all. And to get us going, let's hear a bit about you and your background and the role you've got now.
Oh yeah, so I'm Antje. I am originally from Berlin. I moved here 3 years ago to the UK for this job. Being really excited. I've worked for other real estate portals in Germany as well, and I'm leading the data engineering, data science, and data analytics teams here at Zoopla. I came in to change how we use data, change how we create value out of data. Um, I think with a strong background in data product, data monetization as well, but also self-service, transforming an org, helping transform an org into to using data properly. And then from my background myself, so I studied, oh my God, a long time ago now, information science. So by heart, I'm an engineer and analyst. Have always sort of done that, and throughout my career, I changed into leadership positions, which I love. I love data. I'm very passionate about data. I love how we can change, the world with it, hopefully, for the better. And I love working with people. So that combination is something I've just always been into. And personally, I love London. I love the city. And I'm a big foodie. So
In a good place.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you mentioned you've got a background, I think you said in property. So is
Yeah.
data in property your thing? Is that what you know and love?
If you would ask the people I work with, I'd probably say yes. I think
Yeah.
it's just, especially in the times we're in right now, um, data is such an important part in terms of
Yeah.
transparency. Like everyone wants to know right now what's going on, right? Everyone wants to know what the value of my property, how does that change? And I just find it so interesting to do that stuff, that kind of stuff with data, right? Build recommender, build similar property models, all the stuff, the access you have to data to actually, decide about things and help people find the right thing to buy or sell. Or, I think that's really, really interesting. And I actually had no idea how real estate crazy the UK is. It's
Yeah.
not compared to you also have a much bigger share in people that own property, so that's probably where that comes from. But I thought it's we're still we're still starting to see a lot more how you can use data in that regard. So
Mm.
yeah, my heart beats for that area.
How
But
how are the UK different in that respect then? Is it less, are people less kind of focused on sort of owning property in other countries? Is that what you've seen, or is there just a bit more obsession with about sort of moving and where you live and
I think it's more common to own here. I mean, the ownership rate is
yeah,
about 80%, I think. In Germany, it's about 50, I think, or 55 now. It's going up because more people are investing into real estate
yeah,
there as well. But it's still a quite rental-driven market, which is the problems you're solving through a real estate portal with data are a bit different.
mm,
Um, but I'm just, the interactions we see on the website with our valuation data. So, how that changes. They're literally, hey, when's the next valuation coming out? When do I see the next, like, how did this change? And I mean, politicians
mm,
have given us a great deal to work in the last months
yes,
and year, with changing, ever changing prime ministers. So that has a massive impact on the market. And
mm,
interestingly enough, you can see with data, you can see where that leads to. And yeah, there's a massive sort of, I think, massive interest. No matter who you meet, you tell someone you work in real estate and they're like, oh, so what should I buy? What should I do? Where should I invest? What should I? So I personal experience, I'd say it's a bit more here.
it's interesting for me because on one hand you can look at it as quite transactional and buying and selling property, but on the other hand, I guess when you look at a quite sort of macro level, really what you're seeing is quite generational moves in how we live and where
Mm.
we work and where we move to, and in activity of a country and of a region, of a space. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
and also it's
yeah.
talking about homes. This isn't just buying and selling things, this is about people's homes. So there's kind of quite a personal thing, I think, about what property tells you, or what movements of
Yeah.
property tells you. Certainly in the UK, as you say, given there's such a big focus on ownership.
Yeah, and I think that's what the passion comes from as well. That's what I would tell everyone in an interview as well, right? Why are you here? What's your purpose at Zoopla? It's helping people find their new home. I know they don't stay as long as they do in job, but in the place you find. But how incredible is it to be able to guide someone and having that? I think it's that feeling, right? So I just moved into a new place, and it's this feeling of knowing I've done the right choice, and not, oh, is there something better out there? Is there like,
Yeah.
is there, and I love that you at least can help with new technology and data that you gather, to make that feeling a bit stronger and a bit, and I feel like I've seen this information on Zoopla, I've seen this information out there. So I feel like I've made the right choice.
Yeah.
So and it's a decision you don't take every week. When it's not, we're not a e-commerce portal in that sense where you buy a book. So
yeah, and a big decision. So not very often and quite large. So
yeah, big investment. Yeah.
big investment. So fascinating stuff. Let's talk about data then, and more specifically the journey of data rather than data itself to start with. So that sort of you joined a few years back. Just give us a feel for the kind of what was the plan, what was the journey you were trying to take on, why was that needed, and sort of where have you got to? Sort of broad question, but let's start with kind of like that summary, and I'd love to dip into some of it if we can.
Yeah. How much time do we have? So I'm here for about 3 years now, and
Okay.
when I joined, why I was brought in is where it was kind of the company was at a stage where, if things are working, they're making money, and we're second in the market, but sort of infrastructure wise, like how do you really generate value out of data? How do you really do that? And as I've been with the different real estate portal with Scout, I can say it because I also have many colleagues there that I really like and learned a lot from, and the information I'm sharing is from that experience as well, right? So Immobilien Scout was the former portal where I worked in, and so I came here, and the first sort of the task, I don't think really people really knew what the problem is in that sense. Like they just knew something didn't work. We don't get as much. We have all this data. Like, what do we do with it, and how how do we? And there's this saying about we need to be data literate, and but what does that mean? And so I came in and did a diagnostic. So I interviewed 80 people, because in the end, that's what that is, right? You need to understand what's the problem. What am I solving for? Otherwise, it's just a lot of buzzwords. And yeah, the biggest problems were, it's not going to be a surprise, but data accessibility, availability, and one of the, I think with a lot of companies where you see that is trust. Do I trust what I look at, and then can I draw the right conclusions from it, right? Because that's what it is. You base your decisions on what comes out of it. But if you have many answers to one question, what can you trust? Documentation, all the good stuff that data people are always, when you talk to someone as in data governance, it's just data governance. Nobody really likes it, but you're like, you know what? You really need to fix your foundations before you do the funky stuff. It's what it is. And it's a very old rule. I'm not telling anything new here, but yeah, I think so. Figuring out, what's the skill set that's in house, what not, what's the tooling, what is missing to kind of get to a level of, in the end, you want to create value out of data. And there was this wish of kind of, this longing for creating revenue lines out of it at some point.
Right.
And yeah, it's been quite a journey because it takes time. And I think when I joined, just as an example, and this is not, there's no blame or anything, but it came in, there were no data engineers here, like hardly, just a few. And I think that that's actually a skill we highly underestimate, right? It's funny how now companies are kind of looking for those on the market, because you realize you need those people building the infrastructure, because everything is nothing without having the right data in place. So I'm losing myself a bit here, but it's so much, like I say, I can, so yeah, ways of working, skill sets. In the end, it was about getting more understanding what value we have, like what data do we have? How can we, what external data do we have? How to enrich data? What needs to change so we can make this something but we can use more to kind of, be more than a portal that has listings on the website.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, you talked there a lot about you sort of talked to people and assessed the capabilities that you had. You looked at sort of access to data, and you heard the kind of data problems that people had. Were you exposed to the business opportunities or business challenges or customer interaction or customer engagement challenges that data could have been used to help improve or play a part in? So sort of less about the capabilities as a data function and the sort of things you talk about there, but more what could we do with it? The kind of like the upside, if you like. Was that
Yeah.
exposed to you as well?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what you have to demand as data leader, right? I mean, you can talk to the data people, they will tell you. But part of the diagnostic was to talk to customers, talk to commercial people, right? What do you think? What the looking at the external market as well? What sort of products are out there already? What are total addressable markets? Where do our agents, where do they spend money on already that are data products we might not have? Or do we have things internally that are kind of, not well taken care of, but you could increase use or whatever. So
yeah,
totally. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things I would tell every data leader you need to. And what I keep just this week, I told my team, I'm like, when was the last time you talked to a customer? When was the last time? What problem are you solving for, right? And who are you solving for? You can have the greatest tools, the greatest infrastructure. It's going to be nice internally, but in the end, we need to make profit.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's what it is. You need to be exposed almost like an internship, walk for a day with your customer and just check what are they doing, because also you can ask them what their problem is, but I think it's different when you kind of live within it, and you will see things,
experience
or solutions to things that they might not bring up, right? Because you might not be able to really articulate what your problem is, or where you want help, or where the opportunities are. That was the word I was looking for. No, but you're totally. I should have made that a bit more clear. But I think that's the sort of diagnostic was really about also showing internally what good looks like, because you need to give hope, right? You come in and it's kind of, you're like this. I mean, no one in the exec wants to hear infrastructure and really, right? Or we need to invest in like migration and cloud and all of that. I mean, that's totally clear, but it's really about look, there's a company here that already did that really, really well, and that's how their profit increased because they did that. I think that's the only way how you can translate that. If you start with them, we need to buy a data catalog, you're out the door.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I imagine kind of talking to 80 people exposes you to a lot of these things. You start to build the relationships. Were you was the objective of that to create some kind of plan to get some budget signed off? Like what was the kind of aim of doing that diagnostic? And then how did you move that forward?
So I presented it to the exec team basically, and made a plan for the first 6 months to kind of say, this is what I'm going to focus on, to also get buy-in, right? Really, let's tick off together what you can expect of me for the next 6 months, for the next 12 months. That's basically really also combining the business strategy that we have with more of a data strategy in the end. That took a bit of time because you don't do that overnight.
How do you mean, Antje, on that? How do you mean combine, as in make sure those two things are aligned, or get data as part of the business strategy?
I think I would probably phrase it like that. It's because it's very dangerous to have some slides somewhere that talk about data and how that works. I think you need to understand what the business is going for, and then you literally sort of, what we did was we looked at the business strategy and kind of said, okay, how does data help get there, right? Where do we sort of get to that? And it's like I said, I think it's having that buy-in is really important. I would also say one of the things I learned is whenever you think you've talked enough about it, you need to add 50%. Whenever you think, but I've told you this, but I talked about this, but I just said it's just not enough. It's about education a lot, about taking people on the journey. This is such a phrase, you kind of want to throw 5 pounds in a phrase jar or something. But I think that's really what that is. Every leader, I would say, you need to talk about what your plan is. How does that create value? How does that change things? And what does it look like? I think the most energy I got and sort of, what you call it, excitement about it is when you say, and that's the product you are going to get out of this. And this is how, look, that agent is actually clicking those 3 things, and now he's giving us £1,000. I don't know, but that's what I think that's really, really, really important, because you always hear buy-in, right? And people nodding, but I think it's really agree, and also saying, listen, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm going to do. Here are the 3 things. And hiring was at the beginning was of course something changing, how we use it, but changing that, everybody in the company and within data needs, and that data skills are not just within the data team, right? But buy-in, really important, and making sure, even if you heard it once, it's important to always check in. I would say, to be quite frank, I think, because you're so busy doing that, sometimes it's good to reflect, have I done this enough? Did I go back enough to people? Did I really, really, really take them on the journey? I make that joke of, did I wear the t-shirt? Did I wear the t-shirt with this, does everybody have a mark with this?
The cap, yeah. Well, I think I think communication and sort of aligning that with education, I think those are, communication certainly is an underrated requirement in this, in terms of the amount you need to do. And I think it's a sort of underrated skill if you have it. It's not necessarily at the top of the list of what do you want from your chief data officer, actually, but it really should be, because as you say, that kind of the need to repeat the message is really strong normally, and the ability to tailor it to the person you're talking to. And you mentioned there one way of tailoring it by showing somebody that a successful outcome, not just showing them the slide deck. You said, there's no one wants that written down and keep showing them it on paper. You've got to show people in real life working and adding value. Otherwise, sometimes people don't really get it. But that repeating the message, and that need to keep communication high and transparent, I think is what you're saying there. I often think that's underrated. So it's good to hear that that's been a core part of what you're doing there.
I think it's been a massive learning as well, because also, you need to adapt to who you talk to. There's no way that always works the same way, right? You need to understand. Some people are more data savvy than others. Also, what's your customer group like? What do they like? We have customers that are they have their own data departments. I don't need to go and tell them about data literacy, right? That's a different approach you take than with others that don't know the basics, which is also fine. I think sometimes when you sometimes look at, the posts on LinkedIn and whatnot, data people tend to be we're like the smart ones that know about data, and look, they don't get it kind of thing. That doesn't help at all. Like it's all about, we're in this together. You can have the greatest data department and infrastructure and whatnot. If the rest doesn't see it or not believe it, then it doesn't help.
You mentioned about kind of creating I like that idea of a sort of 6 month. Here's what you can expect from me in the first 6 months I'm here, or the first period I'm here. Did you then kind of like during that 6 months prepare, and here's what I really need to do, or is it a little bit more sort of iterative off the back of that, and sort of here's the first 6 months and then we're going to chip away month by month? Or were you a little bit more kind of longer term focused once you'd kind of proven and delivered some value in that first 6 months?
I think it was a bit more iterative, I'd say, because it wasn't kind of the big bangs along the way. There were some things where we kicked off, self-service internally. We bought a new tool to help us do that. We launched the Data Superheroes internally, like a program with videos and training and, which was supposed to be a bit more fun. I think it still is, but it was more iteratively, I would say. And I think that's, again, you need to figure out how your stakeholders work, right? What do they need? And for some, it might be better to kind of, okay, this, 6 months, let's kind of check in. I think particularly when you are on the journey, infrastructure was a big point at the beginning, and it's just not the most kind of you sit there and now we're moving this from there to here, and I think it's they need to. Oh, so how easy was it for you today to get to the numbers for that exec meeting? Right? Did you need anyone like before? No, I didn't. I looked there, I didn't even notice. And I know it's very internally, but I think those are the small kind of things, and all of a sudden you don't, because it's data, especially analytics, can become quite a service desk. I'd say for me that was my aim. I was like, I don't want to have a team that's a service desk. That doesn't interest me. And I think that's one of the measures as well, internal measures, right? How many of those ad hoc requests do I still answer? How many people do I still have on? How many sessions do we have in Manchester? I'm like, I'm not going to make any money on top of that. So the decrease of that, and measuring data maturity within the company was something we did very regularly to say, you want to be as good as, we had it earlier before we started the record, Netflix. Are they that good? I don't know. But definitely, on a scale of data maturity, 1 to 5, more to a 4 than. So what are those things that they do very well, and what is it they don't do very well? Or compare, there's Zillows and REAs and Rightmove of the world. So I think it's having criteria for that as well, and regularly checking in where are we on that with the team, but also with your stakeholders. What do they feel? Do you feel any different? Do you feel there's anything different to how we use it now?
Often that's what a lot of this comes back to. And you mentioned about building trust. Trust is quite touchy. It's feely, isn't it? You feel trust is about emotion. So actually people's confidence in that now you have a thing that they didn't feel like they had before, that might be a combination of actual real change, or it could just be you've done some good comms, you've done some good education, and therefore their perception has changed and now they trust. So I think that's an interesting point, and I suppose a brave one for a data person in terms of we're talking about feelings here, but I think they're measurable, and you can ask people, and actually that mood swing from we're not very good with data to actually we're actually pretty good here. Sometimes not a huge amount necessarily needs to change. Obviously, sometimes lots needs to change to get there. But that's important component, really important component.
Yeah, I agree.
You've mentioned there about I think you called it the superheroes data camp or something, but I'd love to understand that a bit more. So off the back of the need of improving education or improving understanding of data, what was the kind of drive to create something?
I mean, the challenge was to get as many people as possible within the company to move away from sending us a ticket with a question or slacking people individually, right? Because you want your really great analysts. We also hire different calibers of analysts, right? That can actually, really dig into stuff and build products in the end, like a data product. I can talk a bit more about that later, but I think to get people excited about something, and not that if you're saying, oh God, now I need to understand, A/B testing, and oh God, what's statistical significance? And you kind of have a bit of this feel sometimes that, and I think that's one of the problems in general with sort of data and analytics or science, in that sense that it has that perception of being very difficult, right? Oh God, you need to kind of, so we wanted to take away the fear for doing that and create a safe space as well to kind of say, listen, you can come here, you can ask every question you have. And at the end of it, we're going to go together through a bit of a learning program, and you're going to learn different things. And there's going to be different stages that you can be on. You can become a professional. There's stage 3 over here. You don't have to. Everyone had to do stage 1, let's face it, because, we set up a new BI tool with a different infrastructure, different documentation. It had a sort of AI component to it that you can just ask a question that will shout back sort of the answer. So you didn't have to use all the filters and know where everything is.
Right.
But what it was kind of, not call it something difficult, but say you're a hero if you're a superhero together of this community. You're part of that. So it was a Slack channel. We would post videos and to say, today, take those 3 minutes to learn how you can analyze the leads per listing on our website, right? How did that evolve over the last year or something per region? Oh, you did this video, great. And then we would, call out, hey, Jason did this great course today and he took part in it. And so it's about creating safe space, I think, if you want people to engage more with it.
Yeah.
Because also there's, and there we are diversity. There's very different people that need to learn in a different way. So you need to offer different opportunities, not just here we go with the course and I'll show you some stuff and hopefully you kind of get it. So do something entertaining. We did a bit of, walk through London, find information on kind of the portal. That was what you call it, a scavenger hunt or something.
Okay.
So that's what, in between that we did to mature more on how people use data within the company. But the Slack channel, videos, office hours, lunch and learn, just interactive stuff that you can do to take away a bit of the fear as well.
And not all formal training from what you're saying, because I think that kind of there's a place for classroom training, but that immersive engagement really helps people learn. And also you talked about I think you said there you celebrate when someone's done some training as well, and that creates a safe space for people to go, right, learning is good, and time invested in learning is positive, and this company allows me to do that, and are investing in me to do that.
Yeah, and you had this little badge, and you're like, look, I'm a data superhero. It sounds silly, but honestly, it's also it's all about efficiency as well, right? You don't want at some point you can't grow your data team anymore. You don't want 100 people sitting there answering ad hoc questions. You just don't want that.
Yeah.
So you need to come up with something, and also you don't want to be a bottleneck. So the first step is to get away from that and let data scientists do data science work, let analytics people do analytics work, and engineers engineering work. So you kind of have to go on that journey. I know sometimes a bit of a painful kind of training. It is what it is. Not every data person wants to do that, but that's what you have to invest in, and it helped us so much. Like if I look at it now, how many requests, because we can check that, how many requests do people actually answer without any data help? That's gone up tremendously, right? And now we can we have in our quarterly roadmaps, we have self-service and training was always 50 to 70%. And now we're down to 20 of the time that the team spends with that. And now we can focus on, building data products, generating value out of data, generating money with it, indirectly and directly, I'd say.
Let's talk about that. I think that's a good place to kind of focus the last portion of this is some of the value either that's been delivered and some of the use case and some of the work you've done. So it'd be great to just hear about some of those, maybe an internal and external or something, but just a few of the kind of key places you focus the attention with data, and kind of how you approach that and what kind of value you got.
Yeah, I think the biggest for sort of solving consumer or helping consumers find the property they want, right? So right now we are working on a model that does that identifies similar properties. So when you are searching for something, you get the research list or you get the results list, but you might not show, or we won't show similars that don't fit directly to your criteria. But the idea is to, and the results look really, really promising, to say, it's kind of inspirational search to say, I know you searched for this, but here's very similar properties to what you're looking for. Could you imagine, the area is very close to where you searched, or, this is a 3-bedroom in, I don't know, where are we here? I'm just Tower Hamlets. I don't know. Just because that's right here. So similar properties is a thing. It's a model. Of course, the valuation is always something we improve. It's been with the company for a long time. You might know that HomeCheck is part of the ZPG group. So Zoopla and HomeCheck work really, really closely together. Our data scientists work on the valuation model there as well. So how do you value property within the market? How does that change with the market dynamics? That's something we work on. What we would love to do as well is, for you to be able to go on the website and say, so what if I change the windows? What if I make it more, install more, better windows. Let's use that example. I don't know quite the right wording now, but how does that change the value of my house, right? Or my apartment? Or is this now a good time to sell? Like how much demand is on the property that I own, and how did the value go up since I bought it? it's those kind of things. And then for agents in particular, it's all about problems around what's my portfolio worth? How do I value the portfolio that I'm taking care of? Like, should I go in a different direction? Just as kind of, again, data helps make decisions, but also making sure you made the right decision. You know what I mean?
Give some evidence for the decisions that you've already made.
So it's
contribute.
Also focus, right? We don't have 10 things in the pipeline. We focus on 2 or 3 things.
Right.
Deliver that. There's also something about, listing batches, sort of products where big companies, funny enough, I think you're talking to Knight Frank as well. So Knight Frank has a massive, data org. They don't need us to do the modeling for them. They will do that, but they want the raw data. So you need to think about what's a good product to be able for them to just serve real-time listing data, for instance. So that's also something. But again, you have the product, you start, you test it, you figure out what the customer thinks, you figure out the, commercials around it. Pricing needs to be involved, data and pricing. For me, one of the biggest learnings that your pricing head of needs to be your best friend. I'd say that those are the things we're working on right now.
That's great. One of those use cases about the demand. I don't think I've ever seen this myself personally, but the demand on properties in your area. Like, how many people are searching for properties like mine in my area, to know, because there's a lot of the challenge of putting properties on, not getting interest, taking them off, and I know some personal friends who sort of put their property on and off the market, and that in its own right then either eventually devalues the property because or maybe it looks like it can't sell, so what's the problem with it, or it's people don't go for it because they think there might be something wrong. But the ability to know whether it's a good time, you don't always have the luxury of making the choice about whether it's a good time for you personally, but that level of demand is very, very interesting. Really interesting. I guess the place I'd quite like to finish up then is just, how has this all been received by Zoopla, right? So you started this conversation, and you said there was a bit of question about you weren't really sure what the problem was you were trying to solve, and you had to go on this journey of discovery internally about where were the challenges, what were the opportunities, what do I need to fix, what do I need to improve, and you've been measuring maturity. But how's the mood for data? How's it been received? Where's some of that those internal relationship wins, I suppose, that have just proven that we're on the right track, we're doing the right things, we're delivering value, we're on the right path?
I think the simple fact that we have products like the similar properties in the pipeline, which just wasn't the case 3 years ago, right? We didn't talk about those. Maybe we talked about it, but I don't think the company knew how to
enact it,
how to get that into action, right? All of a sudden you talk about hiring MLOps engineers, right? That wasn't a thing, because finally people understand it's a certain craft that you need to do that as well. It doesn't come from kind of the skill set you had 3 years ago. You need to adapt to that because the market also moves very, very quickly. So and it's not all, it's a mixture of learnings, a mixture of all the learnings, also being able and honest, and say maybe some of that stuff didn't really work, or we haven't communicated enough, or I think now we've definitely, I think if I look at it, also how the proportions of the team have changed, how we've invested so much in embedded analysts for product to really have someone on their side that would help them be more data literate. We've drilled that down now, right? Because we said, no, product will run by themselves. So that's one thing. I think having the roadmap, having a data strategy in place where you can kind of say, you have our CEO going, yes, property data and consumer data, that's what we need to focus on. That's where the value comes from. I know they would be saying that, but the investments we made were incredible. Like that, I think that's always a good sign as well, to kind of say we want sophisticated A/B testing, because we know that if we do this right, the better decision making and faster decision making you have. So what I think and also our infrastructure is at a place right now where every product team can go to, we call it the TDL, the trusted data layer. So whatever data set you need, what you want in your product, you go, it's accessible. It's like you can take it off the shelf and say, I want to use this.
That's nice.
And this wasn't the case, right? I think that data product, I call it a data product, but it's not a data platform, one of the things I'm really, really proud of that the team has built, because it's such a difference to, like, no matter where you go, no matter who I talk to, when I tell people we have this very well documented and governed, data infrastructure at Zoopla that helps us now and helps everyone in product to build what they need to do, and helps us also within analytics to communicate the value, because that's the other thing. You don't just do reporting for the sake of it. You want to communicate to customers and consumers the value that you bring. What do you spend my money on, right? And we're able to do that now as a company, and I think that's been a massive change as well. Someone said it last week. He said, "You know what? Without the work of your team, I would not be able to do my job." And I think that's great, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, can you put that somewhere? Like, Charlotte, can I quote you, or can I tape you on video or something? So that's always, I think those are the signs that you need, right?
Yeah. Well, my question was, what's the mood like? And I think that's
the mood.
That's the mood. That is really, yeah. You can't sort of fabricate that. Yeah, that comes to you because of the work you do. It's a really nice, actually, your answer there. The mix that you gave a mix of, we've delivered value, we've delivered monetary value to the business. We're doing things that we weren't doing 3 years ago and probably wouldn't have done. We've got things that we didn't have that we now do have, that are industry leading and people are jealous of. And you're proud of the work. I mean, in terms of kind of that journey, that you can't really ask for a huge amount more, I guess. Is the trajectory to continue? Is there sort of like a big? You talked about some of the use cases. Is the trajectory now to sort of step on a big step? Is there a big transformation still to do? Feels like you've been on that path already, or is it now actually more about high value use cases, tweaking sort of front end dials for customers, and or is there kind of big transformational change that you still need to make?
No, I think we're good with transformation.
Good for transformation for now.
Honestly, it's at some point you also. I mean, that's what you also hired. I hired the team for, which is, by the way, also I think that's one of the factors which made us so successful as well. That the team is very, very diverse, like very different backgrounds, very different ideas. When we discuss something, particularly within data, it's so important that you don't have the same people sitting at the table.
Yeah.
That you now get challenged and all of this. So one of my recommendations is go out there and find people that are literally different, where you think in the interview, oh my God, you're so different from what I think, I'll hire you.
Yeah.
So that's one point. And then now I lost your question. Damn it.
About the future, just about sort of the future transformation.
Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Of course.
No, I think so. You raised a good point about.
I know it's my passion is for the team, because that's not me, right? I can't do this. And yeah, if you don't have the right people, and I'm a fan of all of them, like they're just incredible. How they work together, how that's been, and I think that's been a massive success factor for this company as well. That we really hired amazing people that are really smart and that have pulled together. And yeah, coming in the next sort of year, I'd say, well, I'd love to, literally add a P&L against data to say, okay, this is a revenue line we now have.
Yeah.
Saying, this is a data company more than it is a marketplace, maybe. That would be amazing. But in the end, it's about creating more of those value-based sort of models, like I was talking earlier. So I think I would like to ship every quarter at least, one or two of those things that I just mentioned. Really focus in, not do 10 things, just one or two. Really understand, does that drive value for our target group? We still have to learn a lot of stuff as well, particularly when it comes to monetization, because sometimes you don't have the wallet in the market, right? People don't spend money on certain things already, so it's not that easy to kind of say I'm going to grab a certain amount of it.
Right.
So that's still a learning. But I would say focus in on a few things and really do them well. Do them really, really well, and become the valuation is something that banks love. we're number one in the market with that, so that's great. And I would love to create the next number one sort of data product, right? That does it, but really focus.
Great. Yeah. Well, fantastic. That sounds like a fun place to be, have been, and also to be going forward. So, listen, I
I think
really
so.
appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about that. Yeah, fantastic journey. You sound like a brilliant leader, with a fantastic team doing some great stuff. So, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. This was fun. Also recapping, all the good stuff we've done. I need to go back to the team as well. Say
Well,
thank you. But thanks
I'm
so much for
sure.
having me.
No,
This was fun.
no problem at all. And of course, we get to share this story with people. So, I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and enjoyed Antie's story. And we'll catch you again soon.